Welcome, welcome, welcome to Your Gift Will Make Room for You with Cheryl T. Ricks. And today we have with us Hakim Tate. Welcome, Hakim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know what? There's a lot of people you're going to meet on your journey of life. And there's some people that you meet will make an impact and help you to understand that life is still worth living. And there's some really good people in the world doing some really good things. And on the news, they highlight all the dread, the pain, the suffering, the violence, and the hate. But there are so many people like yourself doing great things that's making a real difference to make our world a place that we really all would like to live in. And I just want to say thank you for being you and doing what God has called you to do. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Hakim Tate. Been a police officer for about 20 years. I've been a writer for much longer than that, since I've been 9 years old. And I'm a realtor, so I sell houses and help people to look like you and I get into spaces and homes and condos to make sure that they start to build their wealth for the families coming behind them, and just make life easier. That's just the quickest way I can wrap it up, who I am. But yes, the second to youngest of 10, and same mom and dad, third generation native Washingtonian. Yeah, that's Hakeem Tate. Anyway, it's just a pleasure to be here, I tell you. It
But you
is.
know what, Hakeem, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that people can say about a lot of different people and a lot of different professions and a lot of different people that have the same color skin that you and I have. And
Yeah,
it's like every day we get a chance and we dispel the myths. We say, you
yeah,
know what? That's not a representation of the world I live in. That ain't
oh,
how we do what we do where I come from. This is not this, these kinds of things that people want to highlight on the news. That is not what most of life is. And if you look at how life has been throughout eternity, it's like they've always been much more good than bad. But it seems like nobody wants to spread the good news. They always want to spread the bad news. That's why when somebody do something wrong or somebody do something that the whole world can get behind and say, they should have did that. They should have put them under
hmm,
there, then that's what that spreads like wildflower. But when
yeah,
people do stuff every day, all day long, nobody's paying any attention. Nobody's spreading that. And so
yeah.
I just want to commend you for doing what you do the way you do it, so that you are part of the solution and not part of the problem that is trying to overtake our world. So this show is all about, sharing how you use your gift, talents, and abilities to make an impact on the world. Show us how, take it step by step. You said you've been writing since you were 9. How did you get into writing, and where has your writing taken you?
Oh wow. So I tell you, my twin brother and I were about 9 years old, maybe eight, and we were just some kids out in the front yard over there in the Trinidad area in Washington, D.C., in that neighborhood off of Florida Avenue. And we're out back and we're rapping some NWA, if you remember that group.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
you know, and my mom heard us rapping these derogatory songs,
Uh-oh.
and she said, no, 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 no. And she put our older brother on us and was like, hey, we're gonna make sure that they have some positive things to listen to and to rap about. And funny enough, my dad was a big time producer back in the 60s and the 70s. And beyond being a producer, he was just an amazing musician. He was the one that stepped up and played all of the solos at the Howard Theater for every single band or every single act that came through Howard Theater in the 60s and the 70s, except for Motown, because, Motown had their own crew. So I come from a musical background, a musical family, and my father was a writer as well. He has several different credits on projects that he's written on, including some publishing credits on the Soul Searchers first album, Salt of the Earth. So music has always been in my blood. It's kind of in my DNA. And so we started to write our own positive raps, and those positive raps were like, my papa never let me down. He always picked me up and pushed me on. And my brothers and sisters and even cousins kept me going. So those those things and those words, as we approach Father's Day, that was the one that just came close to my mind. Those things and those words and those teachings and that understanding from my older brothers and the experiences that I had with my father that were written into rap songs as a kid. Eventually, I transferred many of those into the children's book series, because when I used to rap, me and my twin brother used to rap back and forth. It was kind of like the call and response thing. That
Yeah.
was the old style of rapping. It was like, if you remember Salt and Pepper, they would go back and forth. If you
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
who's another group? Grandmaster Flash,
Yeah.
Houdini. All
Yeah.
of these groups, rapping was really a team sport. It wasn't just about one person or one superstar. It was really an experience that was shared and also shared with whoever the musicians were in the background. So that's where I started my writing journey as a kid, and into my teens, performing and stuff. And so rapping and public speaking to me kind of went a little hand in hand because I'm performing, it's a performance. And I lost my twin brother when I was about 16,
Okay.
and I lost him to cancer.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, um God is the best of planners, right? And being a faithful man is one of the things that had kept me, because I had every reason under the sun to not make it. I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., one of the toughest. And Black boys like me weren't supposed to make it. We were supposed to be drug dealers. We were supposed to be locked up and in jail. We were supposed to be um, anything but good, but God had another plan for me. And I'm humbled to say that, and to have been in the space and had the support from different mentors and stuff to be able to receive and be open to what God's plan was for me. I had my daughter when I was 17, and life was everywhere. If you can only imagine, life was everywhere. But I knew one thing. I had a kid, and I had to make sure. Her name's Simone Tate, right? And she's a wonderful daughter. She's 23 now. But I had to make sure that I was the type of father that every type of father that I wanted to be that for her. What I wanted to have and what I wanted to see, I had to become that for her. And so I lived in that space, and I lived in that space since I was 17, and I'm still in that space now. And I'm in a better space where I'm asking the questions now, because it's so often that we don't ask people what they want. We just do what we think they want. And so I do that with my writing. I ask the kids, hey, what are you thinking about? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? And I try to put those different lessons and stuff in these books. So it's not me just giving them the answers to stuff that they're not seeking. I'm giving them the answers and the guidance to the things that they really want to know about. So that's how I am in my writing space now.
Wow, that is awesome. And you said a lot of things about how your journey started and how you got to where you are. One of the things that stuck out to me was, how as kids, as children, we have gift, talents, and abilities, but most times our parents don't develop them or put us in a space where we can develop them or help us lead us to that gift, talent, or ability. So it keeps us out of trouble. So it helps us to recognize our value and worth and how we do know how to do some good things, that other people could appreciate. And just having, somebody to say, I said, you're good at that. Let me shoot you in the right direction with it. But yeah, I don't want you to not do that. I don't want you to not be what God's called you to be. I don't want you not to use these gift talents ability, but I want to make sure you're using it in the right way. Just
Yeah,
having, your mom, your big brother, shoot you to like, hey, you can rap. We ain't got no problem with rapping. But
yeah,
what you rapping, we wanted to be good. We wanted to be wholesome. We wanted to
exactly.
be positive. We wanted to be impactful the right way. And that
Yeah.
is a real blessing. And I'm writing these books. When did you write your first children's book?
I want to say that was 2017 when I wrote my first children's book, and that book is titled "God Bless the Mother," and it's inspired by a song that I wrote when I was, well, not just myself, but my twin brother as well. We wrote a song called "God Bless the Mother" back when we were maybe maybe 12 years old. So, and I'm 41 now. So, but the message is still the same. God bless the mother for getting up every day, getting the kids out to play and started on their way to school in the morning with a full and sufficient meal, with a good meal deal. Good is how we feel. It gave us the boost that we need, you know? And so those messages are right in the book. It's almost kind of like um, um, a letter to mothers and a letter to children to encourage them to understand that the sacrifices and the roles that moms step in. They made sure that shoes on, uniform pressed, uh, vegetable oil on your face if we ain't got no more lotion.
I understand that.
You walk to school, the kids are you greasy as I don't know what. So you get these messages and stuff in the book, and you get them and you most of the time you get them in a rhythmic way, and it's just a reminder to all of us the importance that and the important roles that people play, in our lives, and sometimes our sisters or our aunties are in those roles. It's not always our birth mother, but that role is very important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is awesome. One of
yeah,
the things I also realized about motherhood, it's not always the woman that birthed you. It's some
yeah.
of those women that you meet along your life journey that, like nobody has it all. As
Oh
as
no,
as much as we would like to give our loved ones, our kids, our parents, we would love
yeah,
to give everybody the best that we can they can best we have, but we don't
yeah.
have it all. So that's why
No,
it's important to have a community. It's why it's good to
there
have
you
a
go.
village, because whatever you need is in the village, and whatever who's
Yeah,
in the village needs is in you.
yeah,
So just creating a village, and I know we was talking a little earlier about how it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, you did have community. You did have people looking out for each other. I know for me in my community, when my mom was in the house cooking or cleaning or on and whatever she been doing, the Miss Barbara next door, she was like, I got the kids, Marguerite, go ahead. I watch them. You go do
mm,
what you got to do. So
there
it
you go.
wasn't like, you had to, do all this stuff, find your kids, you had
Mhm.
help because you had community. How was that, your community coming up? How did that help you to be who you are today?
Oh my goodness. I tell you, I had moms. I had several moms. My auntie stepped in with my mom and helped breastfeed.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was my first second mom. And then another auntie stepped in, my uncle's wife, and she's not a blood auntie, but she's a blood auntie to me. She stepped in when I was a teenager, and hey, this is what, women do. Like, made lunch, in high school, like she was there, and then work mom now, my work mom. Hey son, you're tripping a little bit, calm down. No, that's not the way to handle that. Let me show you. What's your package looking like? What's that health insurance looking like? Are you saving? All of these different people in the village that really come together and step in that mother role to really guide and mentor me along the way. And it never goes you know unseen or unremembered for me. It's just not enough hours in the day to mention or tell. I mean, I could spend days telling all of my different moms how much they mean to me and how much they've helped to groom me into who I am.
Well, I know mamas do a lot of good when it comes to our sons and our daughters, but I know you didn't get there with our fathers too. Tell us how the fathers played a role in your life.
So my dad, of course, that's my DNA, like music. I've never had professional lessons, playing the piano, but currently I'm playing for the side by side band. I've been doing that for maybe about 5 years now.
Okay.
And I can listen to something and play it on the piano. That's like that's DNA for me. You know what I mean? That's being able to understand that I've had somebody that came before me that probably, well, he was a master at his craft. He was. And I just hope that at some point I'll dedicate the time and attention to become a master at it as he did. But my dad, he was there. And then when he wasn't there, my uncle, who I call Pops now, his brother, his younger brother, he stepped right in, and filled that space. And my dad was more of a dad than a big brother to my uncle, if that makes any sense. It's just having those examples of men really stepping into spaces. And now for my nephew, I'm more of a dad to my nephew than his uncle. And so I don't think that I would have been comfortable with filling those shoes if I didn't see that happen before me, because again, when I was 17, I had some trouble. When I was 16 and 15, I had some trouble too as a kid. But they saw it. Grandma called, hey, come get your nephew. and and my uncle, he stepped right in, moved me into his house, and I saw something different in the change of environment. Because I'm a hood kid, you know. To me, I'm a hood kid, right? Some other people may say, "Oh no, that's not the worst place." To me, I'm a quote unquote hood kid, right? I didn't. So I moved in with my uncle and my auntie, who was another one of my moms. When I was about 17, and that changed my life. Well, no, I wasn't 17. I was probably about 16, 15 or 16, because I had my daughter when I was 17, and I thought I knew it all. I swear I thought I knew it all. Thought I had it because I could buy some carry out food and stuff like that, and I thought I would take care of myself. But yeah, no, but my uncle, he stepped in and really redirected and provided but more than redirecting, he provided the example. I've seen vacations, and I smelled and tasted blue water when I went, what do you call it, snorkeling.
Brooklyn. Okay,
You
okay.
know what I mean? But these different experiences I didn't have when I was, uh, you know, 10 and 12 and 13. I didn't really get those until I was, and that to me, it helped shape me, because now I can't wait to go on vacation. You know what I mean? I seen it, I tasted it, I felt it, I experienced it, and now I'm working so that I can do those other things and see different parts of the world and stuff like that. So
It's
yeah.
amazing how that is because in my world, I was born in the hood too, but you know what?
Yeah.
Back in the day, hood wasn't like hood is today. So you
No.
might have not had all the stuff that other people may have had, but you had
Yeah.
family, you had a roof over your head, you had food, you had somebody giving you
That
guidance and
part.
direction. You
Yep.
also had community, and you
You did.
you didn't know you were poor. Actually, sometimes people put so much emphasis on having a whole lot and
Yeah.
having the what they call the best because it got some kind of label on it. Or
Yeah.
it's like having not having to use your big sister clothes, or your big brother
Hmm.
clothes. They think that that's the worst possible thing. I had to use, they don't even know.
They ain't got no idea.
There are so many quality clothes that you get handed down from your cousin,
Oh
your
yeah.
girlfriend, your mama, sister, your brother. It's so many blessings. But it's something about being grateful, and there's something else
No.
about being ungrateful and greedy, never being able to
Yeah.
be satisfied, always
No.
wanting more and never being grateful for what you got. And let me
No.
tell you, let me say this. Don't shop at thrift stores and consignment shops.
There you
I
go.
do not need to take my money and just give it away because it's
No.
got a name brand or it got some type of this is what
Mhm.
everybody's wearing. I do not, I
No.
am an individual and
Yeah.
I get to choose what I want for me. And I have my own identity. I got my
Yeah.
own brand. I got my own uniqueness. And everywhere I show
Yeah.
up, I be me. So I ain't trying to
Yeah.
be like nobody else, not like Mike or nobody else that they impress me with.
None of that.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, and it's so
Yeah.
important. It is so important
So
to
important.
not don't be don't despise humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Because with
Oh.
God and a lot of other things you're going to learn along the way, you'll get to have the better.
Oh
You'll
yeah.
get
And
to
you'll
have
appreciate it
plenty and
too.
abundance.
Yeah, and you'll appreciate it so much more when you know you've worked for it. And you'll keep it. You'll keep it and you'll value it. And then you'll give it away, and you'll lose it, and don't lose your mind about it, because you understand. You know what I mean? That that's not what it's about. It's really about family, and friends, and being connected, and making sure that the person to your left and right is eating and sharing some of the same spaces that you are. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important too. It's like living a self-centered life where it's all about you, what nobody's doing for you, what I don't
Mm,
have, what
yeah,
they get. It's like when you live a life that you are the focus of it, you are living a miserable, miserable life. And you
yep,
can have situations and circumstances and problems and stuff. But
Yeah.
as long as you show up and be a blessing, you don't have to.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we can't do about whatever we're going through. We got to give that to God and let Him tell us what to do about that and help us
Yeah.
figure it out. But there are some people around you and they got situations that's stressing them, overwhelmed. You can do something about that.
Oh yeah.
You can take care of that. Go be a blessing to somebody else.
Yeah.
Don't just think about yourself.
Yeah. And that's what I do. I find myself being in a space where I'm gonna give as much as I got, as much as I got to give here, I'm gonna let it go. Whether it's material or whether it's knowledge, and resources. Got a group of 10 kids right now that I've been working with for the past 8 weeks. And we call it boys clubs, right? Boys club. But in this Books to Badges um program, these kids learn all like how to speak, like public speaking. They learn how to become authors. They learn how to write. They learn how to sketch for illustration. They learn the whole process. And at the end of the 8 weeks, they become published authors. And so it's free. Because somebody inspired me to write. And that happened to be a family member. You know what I mean? And writing as a kid was my brother, but writing as an adult was my sister. She published a book. I must have been maybe only 20 at the time, called Little X. And her book was like, wow, my sister wrote a book. You know what I mean? And just her story and her journey, like writing for the Post, writing for the Time, it's like, yo, if I can see it happen, then I believe that I can do it myself. And I've been blessed to be able to be in a space where I'm able to see people who look like me really thrive and be successful and believe in themselves and know that they can get things done. So that's been a really blessing. Been a big blessing for me.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I want you to go back to this program with the Boys Club. How did that get
Mhm.
started and how can people participate in it?
So that got started because one of my mentors, from a program that I was in called Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute, called me up and said, I got some boys and they really need to see a black male, like a really good role model. And can you work with them? I'm like, because sometimes the answer is like we always want the answer to be yes, but sometimes being a given person, you have to realize that sometimes it just may not be in your capacity to do that, right? And so we were able to bring it to 1 day a week. Of course, everybody wants 5 days a week, so 1 day a week for 1 hour. And sometimes it goes to about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, because we're having so much time sharing and growing. Yeah, and so the program is housed over at Mondo Verde, which is Spanish immersion school. And these kids are Hispanic and Black, and they all speak English, but their main focus is Spanish. And so the program formed that way because Miss K, she called me and made the ask. And I remember when I was a teenager in the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute, which is a summer youth employment program that still exists. And they call it Marion Barry's Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute, right? And so during then, she was responsible for getting me to understand prospects, learning how to start a business, how to sell, customer base, all of those things, politics, local government, like those are the things that was taught to us in the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute. And it was no way I could just say no, even if my capacity was here. It was just like, I can't, let's find a way. And so every Tuesday, we meet. I go over to the school and meet these group of boys, and we just have a good time, I tell you. And it's a program that oh my goodness, this was the first session. So and it was just so rewarding. Tomorrow is their graduation, and these boys stood up. The last session, it was just saying, boys club is better than recess. And then once it was, kind of like close. It's like this close. It's almost. They just had a space to really express themselves and to really bond. And we had our own handshake, bond, 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 bond. And then and so those things we like really, really look, man. Yeah, we really look forward to doing before session starts and once the session ends, and then they talk about what they did over the weekend, soccer, and just reading what they wrote in the story. It was like I really got to see what's on these kids' minds. And the name of their story is The Day That Never Ends. And it literally we stayed at Elon Musk's house. And without giving their whole story away, we stayed at Elon Musk's house. We woke up. We went to Taco Burrito. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Here comes the Hispanic influence. Okay, cool. And then after that, we went to the soccer game and met Ronaldo and Messi. And we had ice cream and steak. And we got into a golden jet and a limousine. And then we went to Dominican Republic. And then we came back to California. So like their day, absolutely. They did skydiving. They rode sharks. Like, how do you ride a shark? But their imagination just, and I love these kids, man. And they are about between the ages of 8 and 12, you know. So they're between that age. And oh my goodness, their minds was just soaking it up and just dropping little jewels that I can hear back throughout the program that they getting it, they got it. So I don't know, it's rewarding. And I know that when Miss K looks at me, she's like, oh, okay, cool. We got one right, And so, to just, pay it back and pay it forward it's a good space to be able to be in.
So with that being said, tell us some more about you becoming a teen father at 17. What would you say to other young men who find themselves in a situation like that? What would you got the help that you needed. Where would
Yeah.
they go for the help? What kind of help should they be looking for? And what kind of things do they need to realize about how their life is going to be moving forward with this new child in their life?
Well, the first thing is decide that it's not over. It's not the end of the world, right? Because often we have a set of inhibitors and we create this anxiety about being a teen parent because we've heard all of these horror stories about people not making it and how hard it was. Just as hard. We're not going to deny that at all. But you have to decide that you can do it. Decide what you want to be, right? And decide where you want to go and just keep chipping away at it. Um, it's strange that I would have been in that space at that time, considering how many mentors and things that I had along the way. But people do um I won't say make mistakes, but people do have things to happen at times that they don't plan, and it doesn't have to be a mistake. It doesn't have to be a mistake. You have to decide that it's not a mistake and find a way to make a win out of it. And that's exactly what I did. And so I just encourage young fathers, because I often talk to them sometimes, even today, that when you're in that space, find a job and do what you have to do until you can do what you absolutely love to do, because often some of us, we wait and we wait and we wait. We wait and we wait and we wait. We say no, we say no, we say no. We don't do, we don't do, we don't do because it's not what we want. But if God is directing your path and you have faith, if he put this step in front of you, you take that step until the next step comes. You don't just stay at the bottom, keep climbing, and understand that you'll get to where you want to be. And that's kind of the message that I give to them, and not always the same way. I had a faith moment yesterday. I always try to take time to whether it's in somebody's mosque or somebody's church, or if it's just watching online, I always try to take time on Sunday just to reflect and rebuild and to move forward. And yesterday's message was that the path is there. Sometimes the street is the same, but the journey is different. And the more people that you know and more experiences that you hear about people who have traveled that road, the easier it may become for you. So ask the questions, get the information, learn from the experiences, because they're going to tell you about some potholes and some speed bumps down that same road that you're traveling. So, yeah, no, get that, So that yesterday's message. So, being able to share those messages and those things that we get so that other people can share in some of the same growth and fruits and stuff that may be placed in your path.
We will be back after this message.
Cheryl T. Ricks is the author of the published book, Sister Circle, The Power of Sisterhood, a guide to becoming the woman God designed you to be. Cheryl is the president, founder, and CEO of the Women Empowerment Circle, LLC. Her book is changing lives. It is a book for women that describes how important unity among women is to every woman's wholeness. It shows that a sister circle will help women understand the womanhood process and how to avoid the pitfalls that women often experience. It teaches women how to value themselves and each other.
Welcome back.
One of the things that you shared the male perspective, but I wrote this book called Sister Circle, The Power of Sisterhood, a guide to becoming a woman God designed you to be. And in this book, it has the Cheryl Ricks story part 1. That's where I started. And this will speak to what you just said and also to the young girls that are teen moms. This is what it says. It says, all of my life, I've been searching for my identity. I had no sense of self-worth. Therefore, I look for my identity in my relationship with men by using my body to give sexual pleasures. During those years, I never knew I had any other value but my sexuality. That road led me to having 3 children before graduating high school and my 4th child before my 20th birthday. I had my first baby at 14 years old and a set of twins before my 18th birthday. Still not learning who I was, I became pregnant again within 6 weeks of having my twins. I was so disappointed in myself. However, my GYN doctor told me I couldn't safely carry that baby because I had such a dangerous delivery with my twins. So at the age of 17, I had an abortion. Still looking for validation, I married the father of my twins because I was convinced that he was a good father to all of my kids, including my first son, who was not his biological child, and because he was the first man I ever loved, quote unquote. My mother knew my potential and begged me not to marry him. However, in my mind, marriage would make me somebody. It didn't matter that he was already physically and emotionally abusing me. Because I had no sense of value, I never took heed to the wisdom of my mother and older sisters. Therefore, I continued to travel that same dead-end road that led me to 5 more years of hell. Like so many other abused women who couldn't see any light of hope, I cried out to God to help me. And he did before I killed my husband and myself, as I dreamt of doing many times before. However, I had to make a hard choice between escaping the abuse and staying with my children. You see, my husband was a good father and a provider, but a bad husband. Therefore, I left my children with my husband and ran for my life. However, the pain of leaving my children behind soon landed me in a mental institution for depression. I was a mother with no one to mother. It was my mental health episode that united me with my children and softened my husband's heart. It was then that God took me through the healing process and restored me to the woman he created me to be. Even after our divorce, I was able to forgive my husband. We put the past behind us and rebuilt our relationship to co-parent our children. Prior to my husband's death, we were the best of friends. My children are now grown and very self-sufficient. Each of them is a blessing to my life. Because of what I've gone through, I now realize my self-worth and how valuable I am. The things that Satan meant to destroy me with were the very things that made me who I am. Today, I'm an ordained evangelist who share the hope of Jesus with other women who are also victims of abuse or who just don't know their value and self-worth. God is allowing me to use this book to help other women realize that with a relationship with God, they can transform their lives and become an instrument of hope for others. It was a long journey, but here I am 65 years later doing all kinds of amazing stuff. And it's we all need hope and we all need to share our stories. And don't be afraid to tell people where you started because people think you just show up and you just like this, or you have like a secret sauce and they don't have it, so it ain't possible for them.
No, I get down and when I one-on-one with them, I get down and gritty, man. And really tell them, like I told you, like when I was 15, 16, 14, like my grandma had to say, come get your nephew. I had to move out of the city, because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, so it wasn't all cake and ice cream at all, and I was blessed to be able to have someone that was strong enough to step in because I did have a brother that tried to do the same probably when I was 14, and I was like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna do what I want. You know what I mean? But grandma called uncle, and he had a different level of strength at that time to be able to redirect me and allow me to see the things that I needed to see so that I can grow up. You said one really important thing. Well, one, my mom has raised, I say 10 or more, because you're talking about the kids and the nieces and nephews and the neighborhood people and stuff like that. There is no handbook at all to raising a kid, and one of the other things that you said was in terms of like self-value and giving yourself away. Like that's the same thing and you don't hear it often from a man, right? I'm teaching these young men, nah, don't, man, okay, cool, that joint, it looked like that, but no, don't give yourself away, bruh. Like you have to value yourself the same way that a woman values herself, right? If not to a higher degree. Don't just sleep with everybody or everything because it looks good. Be okay with saying no. And you don't really hear that narrative amongst men. You know what I mean? Most of the time, the notion is that if a woman want a man, it's always gonna be a yes. Well, nah, bruh. Say no. You know what I mean? Or say, hey, well, you gotta wait. I need to get to know you. You know what I mean? It got to be something more to you than just your flesh. Hey, pretty, but you won't always be pretty. I need to know you. I want to get to know you. You know what I mean? So teaching that to our young men, that it's beyond the flesh and get to know people and to value yourself differently, is also one of the ministries that I've been able to be placed in to be able to give to these young brothers,
Now, I got to ask this question. All of that
Mhm.
led you to being a police officer for over 20 years. Tell us how you became a police officer and how you changing lives.
Huh. So I became a cop police officer when I was 20 and 6 months, legitimately. Before I was doing that, my plan was to work at a law firm and to become a lawyer. And the law firm that I had started to work on, one of my uncles, and this was the neighborhood uncle, had worked in this law firm, and he had got me in. And my plan was, they have a rule where if you work for a law firm for 2 or more years consecutively, then all you need is for two of the partners, and it's only for certain states: Vermont, California, Washington, D.C., Virginia. Well, not Washington, D.C., but Virginia. And if they have a satellite office wherever, then so these different states had this rule that if these two partners sponsored you, then you can sit and take the bar exam without going to college, right?
What?
You don't have to go to law school.
What?
That's the rule still exists in some
Wow.
states. So it's selective states. So that was the plan. But Virginia had no longer accepted this rule anymore. And so that changed my plan. It wasn't my path anymore. So I worked with my uncle, who's like my dad, doing catering jobs and stuff like that. And at this time, I just needed to work. So I was hustling. I was working hard, writing music for people. However I could get it, I was getting it. And it came to a point where I understood that catering was seasonal, and it's up and down, and I didn't I had a family. I didn't just have a kid. I had a family, she wasn't my wife at the time, my daughter's mom. She wasn't my wife at the time, but the principles that I was taught when I was a kid was that I didn't just have a kid, I had a family to take care of. And so we had an apartment. We moved from that apartment, which was in a tough neighborhood, Oak Parks, and some things had transpired over there that prompted me to move. And so then I moved over into Capitol Crossing, which was on the Maryland side, right there on the borderline, to get away from some of the dangers, quote unquote, right? And but I had a family to take care of, so I had to work. And it just couldn't do the up and down anymore with catering. And so I applied for the police department, at least 4 different agencies, Metro Transit, Capitol Hill, fire department. I applied with the Army. I applied with the Navy. I just knew that the probability of me getting into one of these agencies or job or career fields would take. The more I increased my probability, somebody was going to take me. My mindset at that point was, whoever come first, I'm rocking with them, you know. Police department came first, you know, and my mother, she wanted me to go to the fire department, but I'm like, Mom, I've been ducking down windows and running and getting under the cars all my life. I kind of understand how to duck gunfire. I ain't finna run into no burning building. I haven't had that experience, Mom. I ain't jump out no windows and you know what I mean? I ain't scaling down no poles. But you know what I'm saying? I've been around gunfire all my life. I'm kind of not. And funny enough, you say I'm comfortable with it, right? But should I be? I shouldn't have to be comfortable. But that was my path. That was my journey. And so, police department, I went through that. And at the time, they said, "Oh, you had to have college credit." So, at the time, well, they said you can get in, but they gave you a 2-year period in order for you to get the college credits necessary for you to stay. That was when the police department had first started the college thing, right? I didn't think that it was necessary, but they did. And so I finished and went and got other credits and stuff like that and went on to get my associates. And then went back to school to University of Maryland, University College online, and ended up getting my bachelor's in sociology and criminal justice. So that's been my journey. And for the longest time, my first couple of years, I'm on the job training, you know, and my work mom, my first work mom was my training officer, Officer Kelly, and showed me the ropes. Hey, do this, do that. Nah, don't do that, you know. First work mom. And as we moved along in my career, I had another mom that worked in community outreach. And so when I really got into that space, she saw something in me in terms of how I connected to people in the community. And she poured into me, you know, and then I poured out into the community, you know, with that type of, you know, mentorship from her or mothership, whatever you want to call it. Right. And that's been my journey and just really finding my way into what I like. And I've been in a blessed position to be able to have people in positions of leadership to believe in me and to listen to ideas that I had that create spaces for the law enforcement and the community to connect and grow. The most recent thing that I've had the pleasure of working on is creating, it's helped to create the police department's new mascot, which is called Badger Bear. And so you remember we had McGruff, and McGruff kind of was the thing in the 80s and the 90s, take a bite out of crime. So with time, sometimes things change and need upgrade. So I was able to be a part of the team to help do that. And now coordinating that space, you know, and it's good to see, we had an event called Late Night Hype in partnership with DPR, and to see thousands of kids from 7 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night, not be in the hallways of an apartment complex or on the corner or in the alley. They are at the rec center from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock, jumping in the moon bells, eating popcorn, and they safe, you know, and they around positive images. You know, they not looking at crazy stuff on YouTube or playing Grand Theft Auto where they learning how to drag somebody out of the car with an AR-15 and jump in the car and speed off and it's fun. No, we redirected to have them to be in a space where their mind is filled with something else. And that's always going to be a tough thing for us as a community, is to balance that space, because if they're getting this much negativity, we want to be able to push that scale up to give them that much positivity, so that when it comes to time for them to make a decision of which path they're going to go or what street they're going to travel, we hope that the positive street is going to be the one that they decide to walk down.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a little girl, when I grew up in the 60s and 70s, we knew the police officers. We know they were friends. Hey, so hey, how you doing? We knew it.
Yeah.
So with all the stuff that happens with police officers all around the world, the good ones and mostly the bad ones, they only highlight on the news. What is
Yeah.
it about you that helps you to be one of the policemen that actually have a heart? And how do you having a heart help your fellow policemen realize why we really do what we do?
Well, understanding the culture. When I was a kid, I remember walking down the street. Like I said, we lived in the Trinidad area, probably about the 1300 block or so, right? Between IH and Florida. And during that time, the Children's Museum was located at like 3rd and H, right? Right, like kind of right behind Union Station. So being a kid, maybe about 5 or 6 years old, I remember going down there and having Mexican cocoa and being able to sit on an old-fashioned police motorcycle. And I was just so fascinated as a kid with police, right? But then as I grew up to become a teenager, through the 90s, I've had traumas, right? And those traumas was those drug dealers that used to give me $1 or 75 cents to go get the little Debbie's from the corner store, or the penny candy. Those traumas got built because these police officers came to take these drug dealers away, and I didn't know why.
Turn back around. Turn it sideways. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't know why. All I could see was that these men and women in uniform were grabbing and pulling and throwing down on the ground and handcuffing. So as a teen in the 90s, or in the late 80s, during the crack epidemic, right? I saw so many people who I've gained affinity for, and who some also were friends with family members and cousins and brothers, you know what I mean? Because they played basketball together, or they played in a musical band together. So I didn't understand why these guys were being taken away, Eh, So those things created trauma. So at a time, as a kid, I had that type of sentiment where I didn't really mess with the police, right? And because my neighbors ain't mess with the police, that just was an extra layer. They ain't mess with them. And then they told me about their horrible experiences and stuff like that. So it's been a really neat journey, I would say, because I was able to remember and reflect once what was good and what was bad. But again, it was that scale, because I also had Officer Friendly, but I didn't meet Officer Friendly in my neighborhood. I only met Officer Friendly at school when I went to Elliott Junior High School, and she's actually still employed. The Lord is so good, I tell you. She works out of my office to this day as a senior police officer. But when I was in Elliott Junior High School as a teen, she was a school resource officer. So, like I said, those mentors, like God had his plan. He knew what he wanted me to see. He knew what he wanted me to experience, and he knew where he was placing me and what work he wanted me to do. And I'm humbled to be in that space, and so glad that I'm able to do his work. And yeah, it's been a good journey, and not all good. I've had some upsets, and I think that's some of the things that people don't hear enough. Everything wasn't all good, but I had to remember that those bad things were also lessons, and find the good in those lessons,
Amen. Amen. So let me ask you, when I first spoke with you, you told me that you knew Chief Chanel Dickinson. How was she one of your work moms?
Now, I wouldn't say work mom, so to speak, but I would say she's been a really good friend, and yes, a mentor. I was studying for different exams and just, trying to get more information about how the police department worked. And the first district that I was at, she was just a sergeant, right? She was literally just a sergeant, which is only one level above officer where I was, right? And so I watched her go from there and progress in her career. And to whenever I needed some advice about anything that was oh my goodness, she was there. And if I got in trouble, trust me, I got in some trouble. She was one of the people who I was able to call to say, hey, how do I navigate this? What do you think? You know, she was one of the few people that I could call to get advice, and one of the few people who I knew stood for something, you know. And when I say stood for something, really stood for something. If she knew that she could help, she would. If she knew that she needed to help and that I was still wrong, then she would say, "You're wrong." She'll tell me, you know, but she'll still provide the relief and the help as best as she could. And you don't meet a lot of good people like that. You just don't, you know. You know, some people will just leave you on that island stuck by yourself, and they look just like you, and it'll be in their capacity to help, but they just won't. And we don't know why. You know, we don't know why. But I'll tell you, she's not that one. She's a good one, and she stick her neck out there, and she'll tell you, yeah, you were wrong, but here's how I can help. You know, and she would. You know, yeah.
But you know, one of the other things too, it's like we've been talking this whole time about how important mentors are. And for people to come alongside you and help show you the way and help you maneuver through life challenges, obstacles, and reach goals and accomplish the things you want to. And it's you know, again, it's always important to just declare that you're going to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. And listen
Yes.
to your life journey. But tell us about your books and where we can find your books.
Okay, so you can find my books in all of the bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, Politics and Prose, Books a Million, Amazon. If you got 2-day Prime, they get there in 2 days. So, you know, people like their check mark, that blue check mark. Walmart, Target, almost all of the stores you can find it, and we're up to, I want to say, 5 books now.
Okay, what are the titles?
The first book is, and I suggest you start from the beginning, the birth. The first book is called God Bless the Mother. The second book is The Twins' Adventures, a Race with an Officer Friendly. And the third one is Papa Never Let Us Down. We're approaching Father's Day weekend, so if you know a father and a son or daughter that needs to pick up or them to introduce something new into their life, reading every night or sharing that story, get that book for them. The Twins' Adventures, Papa Never Let Us Down. It's a great Father's Day present. A Day in the Park with Rocky the Dog, which is another Twins' Adventures. It's part of that series. And the newest one is The Twins' Adventures, All Fun and Games. And that one's really fun because that talks about those cousins that came over that used to hide in the cabinet or in the pantry so they wouldn't have to go home. Those booby traps you think that you used to go and set, but actually end up falling on you before you can set it. Good old fashioned hide and seek. That's a really good read for you to have with your kids, because now you're introducing some really good stuff to them. Now you can tell them about those old stories when you was the first one to get found, because you only really know how to find that good hiding space. So yeah, that's the newest book. And like I said, they are all on in all of the stores all across the world. I had somebody to reach out to me from Sweden, which is all the way across the country, about getting God Bless the Mother book, because they didn't have that title in Sweden at the time. They had sold out, which is a great feeling for it to be sold out. But found a way to amen. I found a way to get it to her. You know, and just, yeah. And my social media handles, Hakim Tate.
Okay.
You know, you can follow me on social media. IG is sold_by_Tate, Tate, and everything is there. I really didn't even get into helping people to find homes, but whatever.
Take 5 more minutes. Take 5 more minutes. Give us that.
Yeah, so helping the people to find homes. Like, I've been a realtor for almost about 12 years now. And when I see young people and some old people sell their homes to the younger folks that may be downsizing and going into condos or whatever it may be, just being in the home ownership space and encouraging people to know that, hey, you can do it. You're spending $2,000 a month for this apartment. Let me show you, get these taxes done. You take that tax money and you use that as your down payment. Oh, you don't even have to use that, because now we found you a grant, and you say that and go buy your furniture. So being in the real estate space has really been a happy place for me. And in 2021, which was no 2021, which is what, just coming out of the pandemic a little bit, kind of still in it. Top 5%. I was in the top 5% of best realtors for the state of Maryland. So
Go
really
ahead
putting
with your
the work
bad
in
stuff. Go ahead.
and making those sales, and really and really it's not really so much for me. It's not really about the money. I'm really in a compassionate space when I'm doing that, because I really like to see us win, and us to win now, because it's not getting any cheaper. It's not getting any cheaper. So again, so underscore buy underscore Tate, Tate. You can find me on IG, and everything about the books, everything about how I can help you out in your real estate space. Whatever it is that you need, we're gonna work together as a community and lock in and make sure that it get done.
That is awesome. It has been a pleasure and a joy how you shared every gift, talent, and ability that God has given you thus far, because there's more in you, I'm sure, that you will discover as you continue your journey through life. And
Yes.
it's just a joy to know that there are men of God like you, police officers, authors, real estate agents, fathers, sons, uncles, mentors. It's just so nice to know that you can grow up, regardless of what your beginnings have been. You can grow up and be a phenomenal blessing to so many people, but you got to keep pressing through. There's some hard places along the way, and you don't think you're going to get through it, but you're just right there when the devil tell you it's never going to be better. This is your lot in life, and you blew it. Then that's when you got to push the hardest, because you just at the end of that difficult place, and the sun comes out and you can see your way clear, and then you got a clear path to what you need to do, and you've been prepared for it because all that stuff you had to go through. So I just appreciate who you are, appreciate how you add value to the community and everywhere you go, and with your books and all that you're doing. Thank you for your kudos to your parents, your family, your community, your mentors, your moms, your uncles and your dads, and just keep doing what you're doing, because the Lord is well pleased with you. So
Thank
until
you so
we meet
much.
next time, you stay blessed.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.